Okay, so let's take a look at this. If Amy, Bianca, and Carrie work together on a job, it will take 1 1/3 hours. If only Amy and Bianca work, it would take 1 5/7 hours. But if Bianca and Carrie work, it would take 2 2/5 hours. How long would it take each girl working alone to complete the job? Okay, what's difficult about this is the wording. We've got this 1 1/3 hours, 1 5/7 hours. It's written out in lettering rather than in numbers. And also the sentences seem to kind of be confusing. So let's try this. Let's separate these sentences. If Amy, Bianca, and Carrie work together on a job, it will take 1 1/3 hours. If only Amy and Bianca work, it would take 1 5/7 hours. Now, if Bianca and Carrie work together, it would take 2 2/5 hours. All right, that makes it a little bit better. Separates this a little bit. So let's try this. Let's let A be Amy's hours. Let's let B be Bianca's hours. And C be Carrie's hours. Okay, let's set this problem up. 1 over Amy's hours plus 1 over Bianca's hours plus 1 over Carrie's hours is equal to 1 1/3 hours. Okay? 1 over 1 1/3 hours. Okay? Now, Amy and Bianca work, it would take 1 5/7 hours. Okay, so let's pause here for a second and talk about this equation. What does it mean and how will it help us solve the problems of figuring out Amy's hours and Bianca's hours and Carrie's hours? So remember the equation we use, rate times time equals distance. Okay, well we're going to use almost the same thing. This time it's going to be rate times time equals jobs done, jobs completed. So, but the rate times time, the time is Amy's time. So Amy's hours, rate times Amy's hours equals job completed. Now we want to solve for R, find out what the rate is, so we divide both sides by A. The A's cancel out, and we have the rate is equal to the jobs done over how many hours Amy takes to do a job. So we have jobs per hour. That's a rate equation. And we have jobs per hour here. So how many jobs are we talking about? We're talking about one job. So one job over Amy's hours, that's Amy's rate. So when we set this equation up, what we're saying here is that the rate of Amy's hours plus the rate of Bianca's hours and the rate of Carrie's hours is equal to the rate of the total hours of the total job. And we know what that is. That's 1 1/3 hour. So that's how we got our equation. Now think about this for a moment. See, we're not really saying, we're not making an equation to find Amy's hours directly. We're making an equation to find what the rate is plus the rate here plus the rate here equals the total rate. But in doing so, we have these variables that we can solve for. And these are the hours. So we're kind of going at this at a kind of a backdoor way. Okay, so 1 over Amy plus 1 over Bianca equal to 1 5/7 hours. 1 over 1 5/7 hours. Okay, and then Bianca and Carrie work. 1 over Bianca plus 1 over Carrie is equal to 2 2/5 hours. So 1 over 2 2/5 hours. Okay, so first of all, we take a look at these equations, and we want to get rid of this number here because it looks kind of awkward. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna say this is 1 over 1 1/3 is 4/3, right? 4/3. Now, how do we get rid of that funny looking fraction? Well, we can multiply any fraction, both the numerator and the denominator, by the same number. And so we're going to do that, and what we're going to do is multiply by the reciprocal. So we'll multiply this by the reciprocal, which is 3/4, and we'll multiply the denominator by the reciprocal, which is 3/4, and we'll figure that out, and then the 4 cancels here, and 3 cancels here. That leaves us with a 1. 1 times 3/4 is 3/4, so that leaves us with 3/4 over 1. 3/4 over 1 is just 3/4. 3/4. Same thing over here. 1 5/7 is actually 12/7. So it's 1 over 12/7. Multiply both the numerator and the denominator by the same number, which is the reciprocal here, 7/12. 7/12 here. These cancel. In the denominator, these cancel. It becomes a 1. 1 times 7/12 is 7/12, so we have 7/12 over 1, which is actually just 7/12. Any number divided by 1 is that same number. Do the same thing here, Bianca and Carrie. We have 2 2/5, which is actually 1 over 2 times 5 is 10 plus 2 is 12 over 12/5. Then we multiply both sides by the denominator and the numerator by the reciprocal. The purpose is to get rid of that there. So, and then cancel, 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 cancel. You're left with a 1. 1 times 5/12 is 5/12 over 1 is equal to 5/12. Okay, so let's write this out again so we can work with it. Okay, 1 over Amy plus 1 over Bianca plus 1 over Carrie is equal to 3/4. Okay, same thing with the next two equations. 1 over A plus 1 over B equals 7/12. 1 over B plus 1 over C equals 5/12. Okay, so how do we solve this? We've got 3 equations here. Well, there's a lot of ways we could do this, but I think probably the best way, if you can see this, just stand back and look at it for a while, you'll see that 1 over A plus 1 over B is right here too. 1 over A plus 1 over B. And if 1 over A plus 1 over B equals 7/12, then 1 over A over 1B over here equals 7/12. So we can do that. We can say, we can just substitute 7/12, substitute that into there, plus 1 over C is equal to 3/4. Okay, now Well, now what we're going to do is we're going to find the lowest common denominator, which is 12c, and we're going to multiply this equation, both sides of the equation, by 12c. So we multiply 12c here, 12c here, 12c here. Now right away we can see that this cancels out. We're left with 7c. Then over here the c's cancel out. We're looking at 12 then, plus 12. And over here the 4 goes into 12 3 times. So 3 times 3 is 9. So that equals 9c. I don't know if you can see that little c there, but that's what I put there. Okay, so how do we figure this out? That's easy. Subtract both sides by 7c. So the 12 remains here, equals 9c subtract 12c is 2c. All right. Divide both sides by 2, and 6 equals c. All right, so that's one of our solutions. Now we can put this c back into here and we could find b. Let's do that. So we'll go right here. Okay, 1 over b plus 1 over c, which is 6, is equal to 5/12. Okay, now we multiply both sides by, we'll find the lowest common denominator, which is 12b. We'll multiply this all by 12b. Okay, this one by 12b, this one by 12b, and this one by 12b. Nope, it should be 1. Okay, so, and then the b's here cancel out, and you have a 12 plus 6 goes into 12 2 times, so you have 2b equals, the 12 cancels out, and it's a 5b. Subtract 2b from both sides. 12 equals 2b from 5b is 3b. 3b. Divide both sides by 3. And you have 4 equals b. All right, that's another solution. Now we can find this. We can plug this into here and find Amy. So that's, let's do that. We'll say, do it right here. 1 over a plus 1 over b, which is 4, equals 7/12. Okay, so we multiply both sides by 12a because that's the lowest common denominator. So 12a here, 12a here, and 12a here. So the a's cancel out. I'm left with a 12 plus 4 goes into 12 3 times. So 3a equals 12 cancels out. We're left with a 7a. Now we subtract 3a from both sides. We'll go over here and we'll say that subtract 3a from both sides, and then we'll have 12 equals 3 subtract 7 is 4, so 4a. Divide both sides by 4, we get 3 is equal to A. So those are our three solutions. And you can put these back into this equation. You'll see that it works. Here's one thing I wanted to show you though. Let's take this fraction. We had this fraction 1 over 1 and 1/3. And then we said that was equal to 1 over 4/3. But what I want you to notice here is this line here is bigger than this line here. So the way you have to look at this is it's 1 divided by this fraction. And it's not, if we did it like this, 1 over 4 divided by 3, this is a totally different number. These two numbers are not equal. And remember what we did there. We multiplied the reciprocal on both sides. So 3/4 here and 3/4 here. And we canceled these out. And we came up with 1 times 3/4, which is 3/4. Well, look what happens when we do that with this one. We multiply both sides by the reciprocal of this fraction, which is 4 over 1. And this one 4 over 1. And so the 4's cancel out here. You get 1 over 3 times 4 is 12. You get 1/12. Totally different number. So it really matters when you have a fraction and you're looking at this and you're looking at this line here, and you have to think 1 divided by this fraction, 4/3. Okay, thank you.